60 years ago, every child in Australia died of cancer. 0 children survived. Now, through medical research, survival rates are over 80%. The Zero Childhood Cancer Program is Australia's national child cancer precision medicine program. It's at the international forefront, being able to provide personalised treatments to every single child in this country with cancer.
Jack is really energetic. He's really outgoing. He's really friendly. With Jack, the start of our journey, his major signs were he was tired all the time.
We'd been to see the GP 5 or 6 times over a 2-week period, and then it sort of hit ahead one day when we were at a friend's house for dinner, where he just came up, like he was playing happily for an hour or so, and he just came up to Kristen and said, "Mum, I want to go home, I'm tired." Kristen just basically said, "I'm worried." And so we packed everything up and went to the hospital.
We're just, I guess, waiting for results, and a doctor came and just said there is a tumour in his brain.
In the first days when he first presented to Sydney Kids Hospital, he had a tumour that was growing very rapidly in a pretty critical part of the brain. It was making him pretty sick, was causing pressure, was making him very wobbly and unsteady. And the biggest issue was we had real trouble working out exactly what the diagnosis was. The standard tests, looking down the tumour with a microscope, which is the standard way we diagnose cancers, really didn't give us all the answers we needed. We really didn't know what his prognosis was because we had never seen this sort of tumour before, and we didn't know how to treat it.
Here was a child with a rare tumour, a challenging diagnosis, but by doing this comprehensive genetic analysis on Zero, we were able to show that this was not a normal type of brain tumour. This was a very unusual tumour that normally arises in muscle, but had actually grown in the brain.
The Zero study had shown that he had a DICER1 genetic mutation, which basically means that the switch in your body that tells your immune system to kill unknown growing cells, he doesn't have it.
It was because we were able to get that genomic analysis to give us all those answers that we now knew, that he actually was curable, and that using the right treatment, the right combination of chemotherapy and radiation therapy, he now actually had a very good chance of cure.
He had a really hard run. His major resection, his first surgery, took a lot longer than expected.
But we knew we needed to get through Jack's second resection. This one knocked him around a fair bit. It seemed to damage an optical nerve, so he had a bit of a lazy eye at the end of that, and a tremor, and it was really confronting. For me, that was probably the lowest point of the journey. We still had hope that Jack could make a full recovery, but I guess at that point I realised that things weren't going to be the same.
You know, after he'd had his radiation therapy, we thought he still had some tumour left, which we wanted the surgeons to go back in and remove what was left.
I actually had my bike trainer set up, and I jumped on to do a ride because I thought if I do something now just to take my mind off it. And I was just about to finish and my phone rang, and it was a private number, which meant it was the hospital. I answered it, I didn't know what to think, and it was the surgeon, Dr. Chris, calling to say that they'd cancelled the surgery. The MRI was fine.
When we actually brought him back to repeat the scan to plan the operation, that tumour had gone. So we were still seeing the effect of his treatment, continuously. As time progressed, it was continuing to work, and it was almost miraculous, really, to see that what we thought the last bit that we were going to need to remove with surgery just resolved by itself.
Just like we arrived, we left. We got the news that there was nothing there, we weren't going to proceed anymore. And there was nothing further we had to do.
I think, until we had those 0 results, we had actually planned a completely different course of treatment for Jack. And we now know in hindsight that had we proceeded down that path with all the best information we had at that time, that treatment wouldn't have been as effective, and there's a very good chance his tumour wouldn't have responded, and he wouldn't be in where he is today.
The research that was involved in Jack's journey and diagnosing his tumour is an absolutely amazing thing. I mean, in Jack's case, he wouldn't be here today, potentially.
So the treatment had to be right. And it was, so.
We're so proud of what we've achieved on Zero, but we're not there yet. Too many children are still dying. There is so much more research to be done to get to our goal of one day 0 children dying of cancer.